The alien warship moved slowly across the dark sky above Earth. Its surface was covered with sharp metal towers, glowing with red lights. It was so big that people could see it without telescopes. Many stopped in the streets, pointing up in fear. This was not the first time humans had seen alien ships, but this one was different. It was the royal flagship of the Zorath Empire, and everyone knew it meant trouble. In the control room of the United Earth Council headquarters, people worked fast. Screens showed the alien ship and the strange symbols it sent. The air was tense, filled with quiet voices and the soft hum of machines. Ethan Brooks sat at the side, watching. He was not a soldier, but an intelligence officer. He was known for speaking little, but noticing much. His eyes stayed on the main screen as the signal cleared. The alien king appeared on the screen. His name was Varketh, and his skin shone like silver under the bright light of his throne room. His voice was deep and slow, but every word felt like a threat. He demanded that Earth surrender all control to the Zorath Empire. He called humans weak, saying they had no right to rule their own world. He said that if Earth refused, there would be war, and the Zorath would crush every city without mercy. In the streets, large screens showed the king's message. People watched in silence, their faces pale. Some hurried home, locking doors as if that could protect them from what was above. News channels repeated the warning, and soon everyone knew: surrender or face destruction. Inside the council chamber, leaders argued. Some wanted to fight, others wanted to open talks. The fear of massive loss weighed heavy on all. The alien warship could destroy cities from orbit without landing. Even the most advanced human weapons could not match its power. Ethan stayed silent. He studied the broadcast carefully. His mind noted small details others ignored. The pattern of lights behind the king. The sound of machinery in the background, the way the king always sat in the same chair. These details were not random, meant something, and Ethan knew they could be important later. Claire Mitchell stood near the back of the room. She was a reconnaissance pilot, skilled in moving through dangerous areas without being seen. She noticed Ethan's focused stare and stepped closer. "You see something?" she asked quietly. "Not yet," Ethan replied, "but maybe soon." The debate in the chamber grew louder. A general shouted that war was the only answer. A diplomat warned that any attack would lead to the destruction of millions. The council chair tried to calm them, but the voices kept rising. No one seemed to have a clear plan that would protect both the people and the planet. Then the alien ship sent another message. It gave Earth 3 days to decide. After that, the attack would begin. That night, the world could not sleep. In small apartments and big houses, people sat in the dark, thinking about what would happen. Soldiers were put on high alert. Fleets moved into position, though everyone knew they could not match the enemy's power. On the alien ship, the king prepared for victory, confident that humans would either kneel or be destroyed. Ethan, however, thought differently. He had no wish to see open war. He believed there might be another way, a quiet way. But for now, he kept that thought to himself. He needed more time to think, and he needed the right partner to make it possible. The first day passed with no decision. The second day brought rumors of secret plans, but nothing was confirmed. On the third day, the alien ship hovered closer to Earth, its weapons glowing brighter. The countdown to war had begun. Ethan stood in the observation deck, looking up at the massive shape in the sky. He knew the council's options were running out. And deep inside, he knew that if something was going to be done, it would have to be done soon. He turned and walked toward the quiet hallways of the intelligence wing, already planning the first steps of what he would later call the most dangerous mission of his life. The stealth craft drifted through the field of asteroid fragments, each rock slowly turning in the cold darkness. Claire kept the ship's engines low, letting it move almost without sound. The alien flagship loomed ahead, its massive surface stretching like a wall of metal. The red lights along its body pulsed faintly, marking hidden weapons and docking bays. Ethan watched the navigation display, guiding Claire toward a narrow blind spot in the ship's scan pattern. The path was tight, but it was the only way in, without being detected. As they drew closer, the size of the flagship became overwhelming. It was not just a ship, it was a moving fortress. Claire slowed even more, her hands steady on the controls. "There's the maintenance hatch," she said quietly. A small circle of metal was barely visible against the hull. It was not guarded, but it was still locked behind alien security. Ethan opened his case and pulled out a device designed to override foreign systems. The hatch gave a soft click, and the door swung inward. Claire held the craft steady while Ethan moved inside first, scanning the corridor beyond. The air was colder here, the walls covered in smooth plates marked with alien symbols. They stepped into the passage, closing the hatch behind them. Inside, the ship's sounds were strange. Deep, slow hums and faint clicks. Dim blue lights lined the floor, casting long shadows. Ethan led the way, holding a small scanner that displayed the route toward the king's chamber. The halls were empty for now, but every step felt heavy with danger. Turning a corner, they saw 2 alien guards ahead. Their armor was silver and black, and each carried a weapon that glowed faintly. Ethan raised his silenced gun and fired twice. The guards fell without a sound, and Claire quickly moved the bodies out of sight. They continued forward, passing through long corridors and narrow maintenance shafts. At one point, they had to climb up a vertical tunnel using handholds built into the wall. Ethan's breath stayed calm, his focus unbroken. Claire watched their rear, making sure no patrols followed. The deeper they went, the stronger the low hum became. It was the sound of the ship's power core, and it meant they were getting closer to the heart of the flagship. The king's chamber would be near the most secure section. They reached a heavy door with bright blue edges. Ethan studied the lock, then connected his device. The panel flickered, then turned green. The door slid open slowly, revealing a wider corridor with tall walls and richer designs. Alien carvings ran along the metal, showing scenes of battles and victories. Claire whispered, "This is royal territory." Ethan nodded. "We're close." They moved with even more care now. Every corner was a risk, every shadow a possible hiding place for guards. But strangely, the halls were quiet. It was as if the king trusted his inner chamber to be untouchable. Finally, they reached a smaller door guarded by a single alien. Ethan stepped out from behind cover, aimed, and fired before the guard could react. The body slumped against the wall. Claire checked the door controls while Ethan listened for movement. There was none. He placed his hand on the panel, ready to enter. Beyond that door was the alien king, still certain of his control over Earth. Ethan took a slow breath. "Once we go in, there's no turning back," he said. Claire gave a short nod. "Let's finish this." Ethan activated the panel, and the door began to open with a low hiss. The final part of their mission was about to begin. The stealth craft drifted quietly through the darkness, hidden in the shadow of an asteroid fragment. Claire kept her hands steady on the controls, moving slowly toward the alien flagship. The ship's massive surface was close enough now that every plate of metal and glowing vent was clear. It felt less like approaching a vessel and more like approaching a moving city. Ethan checked the small display on his wrist. A map of the ship's outer surface flashed, showing weak points in the alien scan range. Claire adjusted the craft's path to match the narrow safe zones. The slightest wrong movement could reveal them. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Every small sound inside the craft seemed louder than it should be. Ethan kept his eyes on the sensors, watching for any sign of detection. None came. Finally, Claire whispered, "We're close to the maintenance hatch." The hatch was not meant for visitors. It was a small, hidden port used by repair crews. It sat deep in the shadow of a large vent, almost invisible against the dark metal. Claire guided the craft close, and the magnetic clamps locked them in place. The ship was silent around them, but Ethan knew it was full of life and danger. Ethan put on a dark suit designed to mask heat and sound. He clipped a small pouch of tools to his belt and slung a compact weapon across his back. Claire did the same. They moved to the airlock and the small door slid open without noise. Cold space surrounded them as they stepped onto the alien hull. The stars were distant and still, but the surface beneath their boots was alive with faint vibrations. Somewhere deep inside, the heart of the ship was working. Ethan led the way to the maintenance hatch. He attached a small device to the lock. The screen lit up with alien symbols, shifting rapidly as the device worked to break the code. After several tense seconds, the hatch clicked open. They slipped inside, sealing the hatch behind them. The corridor was narrow and dim, lined with pipes that hummed softly. It smelled faintly of metal and oil. The air was warmer than space, but still cool. Ethan pulled out a small scanner. "This way," he whispered. They moved slowly, turning corners, listening for any sign of guards. The ship's interior was strange. The walls were covered in alien markings and soft blue light ran along the floor. The low hum of machinery followed them everywhere. Halfway to their target, they heard footsteps ahead. Ethan pressed against the wall, motioning for Claire to stay still. 2 alien guards walked past, speaking in their deep, rumbling language. Their armor gleamed under the soft lights, and each carried a weapon unlike anything on Earth. When the guards turned a corner, Ethan and Claire moved again, quicker now. They reached a small lift tube and stepped inside. The lift rose silently, carrying them deeper into the ship. The door opened into a wider corridor. This one had higher ceilings and more light. The air here felt heavier, as if they were closer to the central systems. They followed the path until Ethan stopped at an access panel. He opened it and attached another small device, feeding false signals into the ship's security network. "That should hide us for a while," he said quietly. Claire nodded. "How close are we? Not far?" His chamber should be 2 levels above. They took another lift, emerging into a hallway with ornate walls. Here the floor was covered with dark, smooth tiles and glowing patterns ran along the ceiling. The air smelled faintly sweet, a sign of the royal sector. They heard more guards nearby, but this time there was no chance to avoid them. Ethan raised his silenced weapon and fired 2 quick shots. The darts struck, and the guards collapsed without a sound. They moved past the bodies quickly. The chamber was near. A large set of curved doors stood at the end of the hallway, marked with golden lines. Ethan paused, checking the scanner one last time. "This is it," he said. Claire looked at the door, then back at Ethan. "Once we go in, there's no turning back." Ethan gave a small nod. "Then we don't turn back." He placed a hand on the door controls. The mission had reached its most dangerous point. Behind that door was the king, and the outcome of the war rested on what happened next. The curved doors slid open with a slow hiss, revealing a large chamber filled with soft golden light. The air inside was warmer, almost heavy, and carried a faint scent of something like burning metal. The floor was smooth and dark, reflecting the glow from above. At the far end of the room, the alien king sat on a raised platform, his silver skin catching the light in sharp patterns. King Verakath was alone, except for 2 guards standing near the wall. He was adjusting a crown-like device on his head, preparing for another broadcast. His long fingers tapped at a control panel beside his throne. The screen behind him showed the image of Earth, slowly turning in space. Ethan and Claire moved to the side, staying in the shadows. They had entered without the guards noticing. Chamber size and the hum of the machines made small sounds easy to hide. Ethan reached for the small launcher at his side. It was a sleek, black device no bigger than his forearm, loaded with a single dart tipped with a fast-acting toxin. Claire kept her eyes on the guards. If they noticed anything, she would have to move fast. Ethan crouched low and steadied his aim. The king turned slightly, his face lit by the glow of the controls. This was the moment. The dart left the launcher with no sound at all. It crossed the space between them in less than a second and struck the king in the side of the neck. Varkath's hand froze above the control panel. His eyes widened for a moment, and then his body went still. He slumped forward without a word, his crown slipping from his head and falling to the floor with a soft ring. The 2 guards reacted at once, turning toward the sound of the crown hitting the floor. Claire fired 2 silent shots. The darts hit their targets and the guards collapsed where they stood. The room was suddenly still, the hum of the machinery the only sound. Ethan stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the king's lifeless form. He checked for any sign of movement but saw none. The mission's hardest moment was over, but they could not stay here. Claire moved to the control panel and pressed a few keys, recording the final image of the dead king. She stored the recording in a small device on her belt. "This will be the proof," she said softly. They worked quickly, wiping any trace of their presence from the controls. Ethan retrieved the dart launcher and reloaded it, just in case. He glanced at the large screen behind the throne. The image of Earth still turned slowly, unaware of what had just happened. A faint alarm began to sound somewhere deep in the ship. It was low at first, then grew louder. Claire's eyes narrowed. They know something's wrong. Ethan nodded. Then we move now. They retraced their steps toward the lift, but the path ahead was no longer empty. 2 alien soldiers appeared at the far end of the hallway, their weapons ready. Ethan and Claire ducked into a side corridor, moving fast. The alarm lights flashed red along the walls, and the sound of heavy footsteps echoed behind them. They reached the maintenance levels and found the lift that would take them down. It moved too slowly for comfort. Claire tapped her foot as the hum of the lift filled the silence. When the doors opened, they slipped out and headed for the hatch. The closer they got, the more chaotic the sounds became. Orders were shouted in the alien language, and metal clanged as soldiers moved through the corridors. Ethan's scanner showed several groups closing in from different directions. Claire pulled a small device from her belt and tossed it down one of the side halls. It began to emit sharp bursts of noise, drawing some of the aliens away. They moved in the opposite direction, finally reaching the maintenance hatch. Ethan attached his tool to the lock again. The seconds felt longer than minutes, but the hatch opened with a click. They stepped out onto the cold hull, the stars wide and clear around them. Their stealth craft was still clamped to the side of the ship. They climbed in quickly, sealing the hatch and powering up the systems. Claire released the clamps, and the craft drifted away into the darkness. As they moved toward the asteroid field, the alien flagship seemed to shift in confusion. The alarms still echoed faintly through the open comms. Somewhere inside, soldiers were searching for intruders. None of them yet knew that their king was gone, and that the war they had planned had just changed forever. The stealth craft slipped through the asteroid field, using the drifting rocks to hide from the alien flagship's sensors. Claire kept her hands steady on the controls, guiding them toward the dark side of the moon where Earth's defense satellites could pick them up. Neither of them spoke for several minutes. The weight of what they had just done hung in the small cabin. Ethan finally broke the silence. Once we're back, everything changes. Claire glanced at him. If they believe us, they'll believe, Ethan said. We have proof. They crossed the edge of the asteroid field, and the stars opened up around them. Behind them, the alien flagship remained still in space. Its movements had slowed, as if confusion had spread through its command. No new threats came toward them, but the sound of distant alarms still echoed faintly over the open comm channel before it cut off entirely. An hour later, Earth's satellites picked up their signal. Secure channel opened, and the voice of a controller came through. Unidentified craft, transmit clearance code. Claire entered the code. The voice paused, then replied, clearance confirmed. Escort on the way. 2 defense ships met them above the moon, guiding them back to the surface. As the blue curve of Earth grew larger in the window, Claire let out a slow breath. Home, she said quietly. When they landed at the United Earth Council base, armed guards surrounded the craft, unsure of what it had been doing so close to the alien flagship. Ethan stepped out first, holding the small recording device in his hand. The council chair met them in the hangar, eyes sharp with questions. Report, the chair demanded. Ethan handed over the device. It's done. The king is dead. The chair's expression changed as the recording played. The image showed the alien king in his chamber, then the moment he collapsed. There was no mistaking it. The proof was clear. Within hours, the news spread through the highest levels of Earth's defense command. The alien forces, once so confident, began to withdraw from their attack positions. Without their leader, the Zorath Empire's fleet had no clear orders. Some ships broke formation entirely, drifting away into deep space. Others stayed in orbit but made no move toward Earth. On the streets of cities across the planet, the tension began to lift. People who had been hiding indoors stepped outside, looking at the sky without fear for the first time in days. The great threat that had hung over them was gone, at least for now. In the council chamber, the leaders debated their next steps. Some wanted to push the advantage and strike at the remaining alien ships. Others urged caution, warning that a reckless move could bring the war back. In the end, they agreed to hold position and wait. Ethan and Claire were dismissed quietly. There was no public announcement of their names or their mission. The council knew that the less attention the two received, the safer they would be from alien revenge. That night, Ethan walked alone through the quiet streets near the base. The stars were bright above, and somewhere out there, the alien flagship was still drifting. He thought of the king's last moments, the way the room had gone silent after the dart struck. It had been quick, almost too quick for the weight it carried. Billions of lives had been saved, but it had taken only a single, silent act. Claire found him sitting on a bench, looking up at the sky. "You're not sleeping?" she asked. "Not yet," he replied. "Just thinking about what comes next." She sat beside him. "Whatever comes, we'll be ready. We prove that humans can fight in more ways than one." Ethan gave a small nod. "Sometimes the quiet fight is the one that matters most." In the days that followed, Earth remained on alert, but no new attacks came. The alien fleet slowly pulled away, vanishing into the darkness between the stars. Messages intercepted from their channels spoke of confusion, fear, and the struggle for new leadership. Without their king, they were no longer united. Ethan returned to his work in the intelligence wing, just another face in the long halls. Claire went back to her flight duties, her stealth skills now known only to a few. Life began to move forward, but the memory of those tense days stayed with them. Far beyond Earth, in the cold silence of space, the story of the human who had ended the war without a battle began to spread. Not as an official report, but as a whispered tale among those who had seen what humans could do when pushed to the edge.